So for some of my goals this year that I set, excuse my dog in the background. Some of the goals I set for myself this year, going into clinical, especially in a high school setting, was to be able to keep more of a professional relationship. I think with a lot of my experience, I was dealing with college athletes and I was dealing with kids my own age, so there was never that push to make me feel like I needed to sit more as a professional. I was still in the learning aspect, so I didn't really feel that I had to draw the line between my friendship with them and my personal, my professional. And so I think one of my biggest goals going into a high school was to be able to demonstrate that I was a professional, to demonstrate that I wasn't their age and I wasn't their friend first. I was their athletic trainer first. I was there to do a job. Not saying that I couldn't have a good relationship with the athletes, because I think that that's a big part of being an athletic trainer, is being able to hold those relationships and create those relationships, not only so that the athletes trust you and then the parents trust you, but for future endeavors. If you decide to move on, you're not going to have bad reviews saying, you're not a people person or you don't know how to interact right. But I really wanted to draw that line and be able to still have conversation with them, but allow myself to be the professional and to be the adult in the situation, especially dealing with the high school students. Another one of my goals was to be able to learn quicker on my feet. I got to learn a lot going to Bemidji State and being able to work through the athletic training office and with those athletic trainers. But I wanted to be able to think more of a on-field evaluation type quicker mentality of what would I do in this scenario, or how could I become a better athletic trainer if this happened, or what can I do to make my patient or my athlete comfortable in this situation. So I really wanted, that was one of my goals, to be able to do that. Another one of my goals was just to, I guess, understand things more in depth. I got to do a lot of the hands-on stuff working in Bemidji, not so much of the learning stuff, because it wasn't a major at Bemidji. It was, obviously, I got my undergrad in exercise science, so athletic training wasn't something that I got to major in and get to know the signs and symptoms and all this other stuff of specific, diagnoses. And so I think that my biggest goal was to be able to evaluate a situation, but to know the background of that situation. Like, if somebody's, knee gave out, what were all the possibilities of a knee giving out, and what were all the possible diagnoses of a knee giving out? Or if, a shoulder dislocates anteriorly, posteriorly, or inferiorly, how does that happen, and what makes that happen? So those are my biggest goals, I think, for this couple 8 weeks. For my first goal being like more of a professional, I think I did pretty good. I tried to draw a line very soon with them understanding that I was there to work. I was there to learn. I was there to follow Jared. But I also got to build a relationship. I feel like a lot of the athletes respected me and knew who I was and trusted me to, come to me and, ask, hey, I did this to my finger. What do you think it may be? And I obviously, would share that I was just a student athletic trainer and that they needed to go talk to Jared. But I built that relationship, and not in a, hey, you're my classmate, so I trust you. It was, hey, they see me as an athletic trainer or a future athletic trainer. I trust you. So that was pretty awesome. And so that's how I measured it. Just, I guess, their comfortability and how they showed, how comfortable they were with me. My other one with being able to understand the background to injuries, I think that going through class has really helped. I mean, it has been difficult, I think, for me to remember everything, and I'm still working on that. But just being able to, like, now, even if I watch football games, like today, one of the Patriots players went down, and it was a clear knee injury. What it was, nobody obviously knew. But right away I'm like, okay, this was his mechanism of his injury. Like, he planted and his knee twisted. It was a forced twist because another player, went and ran into his leg, and it forcibly, I think it was an exterior or external rotation of his tibia. So automatically I'm like, oh, here's what it could be, ... And that was just fun for me. It was fun for me to be able to be like, oh, like, this is what it could be, and not just be, like, guessing. Like, I had the mechanism of injury. I got to watch it happen, and here's what I think right off the bat. And what would I do to cancel those out? What special tests would I provide? And we just started learning about the knee, so that was pretty awesome. And one of our athletes actually had a dislocated shoulder, anteriorly, obviously, because that's the most common. But I got to know, like, he told me how it happened, and I got to feel it, and I got to watch it be relocated back into place, and I got to see how that happened. So that was pretty awesome. And my other one, just being able to evaluate, I guess it's kind of runs into my third goal, but to be able to evaluate and be better in the moment on-field, like, evaluations. Just is pretty awesome. Like, my first game at DCG, one of our kids ended up with a fibia fracture, and I'm like, oh, that's it's a fracture. It should hurt. It should cause him pain, and it didn't. He felt like he rolled his ankle. And that's what we thought at first. We got the tape out, we got the pre-wrap out, everything, and we were ready to tape his ankle, and the doctor was doing a special test. He did the bump test, he did the squeeze test, and the only point that it seemed to bother this kid was on the fracture point. So that was interesting to me, because I didn't think, it's a fibia, it's a bone, it should hurt, and it should hurt throughout your whole leg, but it didn't, except for the one point that it was bothering him. And so to be able to see that, and to see, like, hey, even the person that it happened to may not think that it's anything but a rolled ankle, and to come to, find out that if he'd went back out there, if we'd have taped him up and he would have went back out there and he'd have took one more hit, that could have displaced the bone, it could have completely shattered the bone, and we'd be talking about more than just 6 to 8 weeks in a boot. So that was awesome, and just being able to experience that. And I obviously am not at the point in my career or my education to be able to say, hey, this is, what it is, even though it may present as something else. But it was awesome to see Jared and the doctor and the PT work together and diagnose that and figure that out, instead of just taping him up and sending him off. Because even the athlete thought it was just a rolled ankle. So my second goal, I wouldn't say I've done it hands-on and figured it out hands-on yet, but I've got to observe a lot and to be able to see how you can evaluate an on-field, situation and think it's one thing, but keep going into your testing and keep going into your palpations and your inspections and find out it's something completely different. So that was pretty awesome. But yeah, I think my time at DCG was phenomenal. I love Jared. He's an amazing preceptor. I got to learn a lot. He was phenomenal in the fact that he understood that I wasn't expected to know everything and that I was still learning a lot, and he took the time to help me and to teach me. So I'm very grateful for that. And that is my reflection, my first rotation reflection of my professional development plan. So